We cover everything.
Well, you wake up in the morning, you hear the work bell ring, and I march you to the table. You see the same old thing. Ain't no food upon the table. There's no fork up in the pan. But you better not complain, boy. You get in trouble with the man. Left the midnight special.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and it's having a couple technical difficulties here, but I got it worked out during the break, so hopefully it sounds a little better. Again, my guest is Stu Webb tonight. Glenn Kennedy's going to be joining me here in a second. The call-in number is 858-683-1309. Press 1 so we know you want to get on. Make sure you get over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com, project.nsearch.com, and the social network, nsearch.com. And Glenn's sending me a message here. Kind of hard to read it on the air, but I'll do my best here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're good, Glenn. Matter of fact, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands, my friend.
Hey, buddy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, great.
I can hear you just fine.
We pulled this off at the last minute, and I don't want to waste any more time, so let's bring on Stu and let him tell his story.
All right. Stu Webb, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. It's my pleasure and honor to be on the show with both of you, with you and Glenn.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. Glenn, if you want to take it from here, go right ahead. I'll be honest. I don't have a bio for you.
Sure.
So
yeah,
if you want to start there and tell us a little bit.
Well, he's one of the biggest whistleblowers out there on many different subjects. I'm just going to let him, do his own introduction. Do it better than me anyway. So go ahead, Stu. Why don't you give people a little bit of background about how you started in this whole rabbit hole that you've been going down?
Well, I'm married into what they call the Bush Crime Syndicate, or what I do. I'm married to one of the 100 Illuminati Templar bankers' daughters, Carrie Millman, back in 1981. We had a daughter in 1984. My ex-wife was acting nutty as a fruitcake. She was a child abuse, now adult syndrome, they call it. Satanic abuse, child abuse, the mental, verbal, everything. She'd been molested. I didn't know any of these things when I married her. She'd been married 4 times, so each marriage ended in violence on her part. The deal was they took my kid from me. She tried to murder my daughter when my daughter was an infant, and 28 days old, picked up an ashtray and said, "I'll kill it before I let you have it." Well, I was threatening her a divorce if she didn't go back and see a shrink. I'd taken her 2-3 times. Bottom line was, she disappears the next day after being ordered by the Texas Child Welfare to undergo psychiatric evaluation. Within 7 days, she didn't comply. Either that or they were going to arrest her for assault and battery on me and attempted murder on my daughter. And so they worked it out, supposedly, where the shrinks were going to analyze her and get her help and so forth. Bottom line was, I get divorce papers 6 days later. She disappeared the next day. Her father bought her all the way out of this damn whole thing. They terminated my parental rights a year later, saying I couldn't see my daughter. I, as a pissed-off father, said, started shopping other attorneys because one dropped off on me, said, he's being threatened. And I started shopping attorneys in Dallas, Texas, telling me I had to contribute $150,000 to the judge's election campaign, and that they wanted $100,000. I said, $250,000 to see my child. This is nutty. So I'm going to regroup. And I started getting heat in Texas. Every time I turn around, sheriffs are pounding on my door, searching my house for drugs, doing the different things, of which I don't do drugs. They didn't find anything, of course, and so they left. It was intimidation. Package A, they call it. Package B is where they give you false arrest, and Package C is the graveyard. I've gone through all three packages, but I'm not in the graveyard. So anyway, I regrouped, went back to Kansas City, where I was from and where I'd met her, where I grew up, in Independence area. Went back, started to contact old customers. I'm in the building business, or was, until this recent series of accidents. It's kind of put me out of it permanently. But I was building new houses when I met her. I was getting bank loans. When I married her, bank loans were cut off. And she didn't have anything to do with her parents during the period of time that I was married to her. She did this with each of her first husband the same way, and myself. It was her security blanket, is what I was told by a couple of shrinks that I had taken her to. This is the way they were. But anyway, story cut short, I get back to Kansas City. I go to the FBI with information that I'd accumulated on him, a little bit of information. Next thing you know, I'm being arrested. Never been arrested. I'm being arrested every time I turn around. Getting stopped for a traffic ticket, supposed to run a stop sign. My car being impounded, me hauled to jail for running a stop sign. And it was heat from George Herbert Walker Bush, who was then Vice President of the United States, running his Iran-Contra operations, etc. I didn't know that my ex-in-laws were partners with all the Bushes. I didn't know he was a Knights Templar banker. I knew nothing about this guy. I started digging on him. Every time I dug, I found more. I started looking at his properties, holdings, because when I met him one time in 1981, it said he had a shopping center. It was out on Parker Road, Kmart, and he was looking for a guy like me to develop land around there. 5,000 acres he owned. So I started looking at him. I started looking at the property, and Milrose Investment Company, Milrose Construction Company. This was him and Albert Rose, one of his partners that he was funding. And they owned about $2 billion with the bare land tracts. So I started looking at another partner that when I was married to Carrie, I would get Professional Builder and Professional Housing Magazine. One of Leonard's partners, MDC Holdings, Larry Mizell, trade on the New York Stock Exchange, which is one of the largest builders in the nation, one of the top five. It's Richmond American Homes. She pointed out once, that's my dad's business partner during the last of the marriage. She also made a statement during the last of the marriage that her father was a mobster. Well, that didn't go over too well. And when I was out visiting with them, a statement was made, and I have a pretty good photographic memory. A statement was made that they wanted myself and Carrie to come back for a party a month later, where Phil Wynn goes to Washington, becomes the new FHA commissioner. That was their friend, supposedly. It turned out to be he was a business partner on the board of directors of MDC. MDC was the parent company for Silverado Savings. Well, by 1988-89, I'm finding out the bigger picture, still not knowing really what it was all truly about, except that they were into everything. Leonard was. And that they were Robin Hood. And I'd gone to the HUD Inspector General after not going back to the FBI. The arrest calmed down. I beat every charge, of course. Cost me $50,000 in attorney fees in a 5-year period of time to get my rear end out of all the deep doo-doo they had put me in illegally. And so they were trying to divert me from ever seeing my daughter. He was in his game that he played. But it turns out to be that by 1989, I'd caused the HUD scandal. The independent prosecutor, Arlen Adams, was appointed as a result of me going to the HUD Inspector General and they moved me over to the congressional investigators. And they started saying, Stu, we got this reporter named Pete Bruton with the Houston Post doing some stories on Silverado. He's got your ex-in-laws and some of the people you've given us all tied up with the S&Ls that are failing all across the country. Would you talk to him? I said, look, I don't want my name involved. At the time, I thought, the FBI and the government's going to do, I was naive, thinking the government was going to do the right thing when, in fact, all they were doing is covering it up, except for these congressional investigators. And they did their job. And so they turned me on to Pete. I was working behind the scenes with him and many reporters. It turned out to be, it escalated. By 1990, they had the Silverado hearings where my ex-in-laws owned Silverado Savings alone through their company, MDC Holdings of Denver, the same one that owns Richmond American, Beneficial, et cetera. There's like 10,000 corporations they've created underneath that entity and ran through that entity. All the missing Charles Keating's assets from Lincoln Savings got laundered through there in that period of time when American Continental collapsed and Lincoln Savings collapsed. And if you notice the MDC at the time, I could show that they had like $12.5 billion in assets or something. Within about 3 years, they didn't have but $2 billion, and that's because they were laundering the money. They were laundering money for Iran-Contra. I came across Dal Martin, the Iran-Contra whistleblower, through Margie Sloan, the Time Magazine reporter. Jonathan Beatty with Time Magazine wrote The Outlaw Bank. But I had caused, basically grouping with others. It was one, I was credited with the independent appointment of Arlen Adams, special prosecutor in 1989 on the HUD scandal. And they robbed HUD for 500,000 apartment units, each apartment being a unit. They robbed the savings and loans for over $1 trillion, possibly could be up to $2 trillion. They were doing security frauds. They were doing bank frauds of all kinds, real estate loan frauds, breaking the banks, etc. But that congressional hearing with Neil Bush involved, because he was a director at Silverado, where the ex-in-laws had the ownership, he had to go before congressional committees involving Henry Gonzalez on the House banking chairman, etc. Then there was the Denver airport. I was working with a former Rear Admiral, retired Admiral Dick Young of Denver, a licensed attorney, finding the frauds. He was trying to put a halt to it. That's where they owned all the land tracts around there. They disbarred him illegally. But because those hearings, he testified in those. And, of course, what they called the Keating Five. It was actually the MDC Holding State biggest case. Jonathan Beatty with Time Magazine jumped in, did a story about the Denver airport illegal politicals, and they had to appoint an independent prosecutor on it on the state level. So I'd made a lot of noise. They locked me up as a political prisoner from 1992 to 1993 when they found out it was me causing them the heartache. Issued a warrant in 1991 after a series of phone calls to my ex-in-law, which was about 5 calls. I will be having those. They're up on the internet under Amanda Millman, it says, but it's my daughter, Amanda Webb. They're up there. You can listen to them yourself. But the calls, there weren't any death threats, which he charged me with to hold me as a political prisoner, to shut me up. I get out. I've done 2,500 radio shows. I've been on several TV shows. I've been after them for everything that they've done. Every time that there was a rock, a snake was underneath it, it was Daddy Bush, and it was always the money laundering to my ex-in-laws. Who were the money launderers for Daddy Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush? Well, I've investigated a lot of things. Oklahoma City, I've investigated 911. I've been involved with many people in the intelligence community. When I was held as a political prisoner, there were 2,500 political prisoners where I was at. Many of them were FBI agents trying to do their job, DEA agents trying to do their jobs of busting the Bushes and the Iran-Contra boys, drugs, guns, weapons, etc. So I've come to gain a lot of knowledge. As George Herbert Walker Bush says, your library card, Stu Webb's library card expired. And just in the past 2 years, they've tried to kill me 4 times. They've burned a customer's house to the ground. And from there, I'll let you ask your questions.
Wow. Stu, you just talked about the attempts on your life. One of the most insane attempts was, why don't you tell them about the helicopter and what they were doing to you with the laser?
Well, since about 2004, the government blames the bad guys, the Bush crowd, blames myself and Tom Hennigan for starting war with them. We did start war. He approached, I approached sources of mine, he approached sources of his, and as a result, there was a group that was formed. And that group involved Interpol and involved people in various agencies of the government. I don't want to get into it. And involved foreign intelligence, the French. And it happens to be the French flies over us. We fly over them. We've got the George Washington Lafayette Agreement from the time our country was formed, to where if we're occupied by domestic terrorists or domestic enemies or foreign enemies, They're to come to our rescue, and vice versa. We're to go to their rescue. Well, it happens to be that I was being shot continuously for about 3 days with lasers on a house in Nebraska that I was working on. And for the past, since about 2004, I've been able to make money again in the remodel business, not get new loans, but be able to do remodel for other people without being bothered, pretty much, because of this. I'm the one who supplied that group with the information on the bank bailout. They followed up with it. Hennigan threw in what he had, and, of course, it led to the bank bailout. They were supposed to go to bankruptcy court, this whole group in Denver, who created these mortgages without houses, etc. So this was pushing up to 2007. But after the bank bailout in 2010, I happened to be working on a house in Nebraska, in a little small town that a friend of mine had called me and asked me. He said he had a friend that wanted me to do this house, give him a bid. I went up and gave him a bid, and it was a 5-month-long project to redo the whole house. I did the house. While I'm there and finishing up the house, all of a sudden I'm getting hit with helicopters. I've been having them flying over me for about a week off and on. And I was being knocked to my knees inside this house. And I'd gone out, seen it. It was a Huey. And I couldn't identify if there weren't any markings on it or anything. And I'd called it in a couple times to friends, saying, look, I'm being poked with a helicopter. They're using lasers. They're using something on me, knocking me in the knees, sending me silly. They did it for a second day. I made phone calls again. Third day, I made phone calls. They said, we're tired of hearing about this. We're going to do something about it. I figured maybe they would intervene with their little toy of the satellite, because they've done the satellite game a couple times on stooges following me around, etc. As a precaution, should we say. I asked for favor. It happens to be that there was a Mirage, a French Mirage jet that had just refueled out of Omaha, Nebraska, that flew into the area, chased a helicopter outside of town, identified that they were a Blackwater XE. They blew them out of the air because they had been trying to kill me. They identified this. They also identified other things I can't talk about in communication. It's caused an international incident twice where the ambassador to France was called up before the government, NATO. They are part of NATO. And they said, look, this guy's been very helpful in the bank bailout and other things, and we weren't going to let you kill him, period. So it did happen.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, something I didn't ask for, but it happened. But there were 4 Israelis aboard in the Blackwater to kill me. Since then, I've had over 3 times where the FBI stooges, I've got them up on my breaking news page, pictures of them, 2 of them, Somalians with even passports, working for FBI, a gal out of Houston running the operation, where they actually rode me on the freeway, hit me in the left rear of my van. I was in the middle lane. They scraped the wall intentionally so they could jackknife off the wall. In the third lane, the left lane, hit me in the left rear and just jackknifed me in midair. I just went sideways, and suddenly I started tumbling. I saw the concrete barrier coming up my head. If it hadn't been for a wall that was built behind my seats to keep people out of my toolbox in the back end, I would have been dead. And since then, they burned a house down 1 year later in October, a customer's house. They didn't have insurance. They just inherited the house. They thought there was insurance on it, but wasn't, $160,000 loss. And 8 days or 9 days later, they crammed me in the rear end, a tail, died to Orion Investigations out Overland Park. And then 8 days after that, an Iran-Contra stooge who still hauls drugs by the name of J.D. Stevens, Truck Driving School out of Kansas City, Missouri, that hauls drugs, part of the old MENA drug operation, still hauling drugs all around the country, goes and smacks me in the left side on the freeway at 65 miles an hour to knock me off the freeway and totaled that van. Still sits in my driveway totaled. I have not been paid a dime off any of the insurance companies yet to date.
Wow.
Except I think second insurance paid for rear bumper, but none of the medical.
Well, Stu, I really thank you again for coming on the show today, and I want to tell everybody out there that, this stuff is real. I mean, as you can see, Stu's been targeted. I feel like I'm being targeted. I hear my phone that's been dead for for 6 months start clicking today all of a sudden, even though the battery's been dead on it. So that tells me I'm being hit with some kind of electromagnetic weapon or something in where I am. So this is very real stuff. And first of all, I want everybody to go to stewwebb.com. That is an incredible site. And it's not just enough that Stu's out there risking his life. This information, and the problem is not many people know about Stu's site. And so I want everybody out there to do whatever you can to get the word out about Stu's site. And, one thing that I wanted to talk about first is I get a lot of talk, and I know, Michael, you do too, about, what the white hats are going to come save us. Benjamin Fulford says everybody's about to get arrested, or this Drake. Well, Stu's got some information on this Drake character right now that he's going to share, but before he does, let him take a break for his voice for a second. I just want to tell you guys, like I've been saying, and this video will go viral. We will have a video up about this show in the future, the near future. And I just want everybody to know that it's not enough just to share it on your Facebook. Facebook is okay, but it's completely infiltrated by the CIA and the bad forces. So it's very critical that you get the word out to every radio host, every show that there is, that we have got to sidestep this net that they've put around the internet. The only way to do it is through cards and flyers and giving donations to great people like Stu Webb. So first off, if you've got extra money, please donate to Stu. He's been through literal hell. But secondly, I want everybody that listens to this to get active offline. We cannot win this war online because it's not going to happen. It's too controlled. Instead, I want you to go to nsearch.com, click that help button, get our business card so that we can get all the people out there to not only know about what the Bushes have done and the Clintons and everybody else, but also so that they can get some hope as far as getting cures for cancers that have been suppressed. So Stu, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, we're safe now, aren't we? I mean, they killed Captain Caveman, and the Long Ranger's coming to save us.
Yes, Stu, why don't you address that real quick? Why don't you address all these white hats and what information you have on it so people can start waking up and understanding that it's up to them?
There is a good group of people within various agencies. Okay, they have come together. I'm aware of that, and they're all intertwined with Interpol. Okay, it's been pretty obvious they drove these people to bankruptcy court, and of course they get bailed out under the TARP program. Then they get bailed out under the bank bailout deal. $38 trillion to date. I mean, I have stuff up on my site on the breaking news. My archives is really crappy. I need to update my site. I'm in the process of doing so. I'm making it easier to get around. If anybody just goes in and starts really scrolling in three main places, the front page, right off the front page, breaking news, that's the latest stuff. And I've got a whole section up there on myself. I'll be transferring to the front page soon, and then the breaking news will come up. But otherwise, you have to scroll down a little ways, a foot or so, to get to the breaking news. The site's being redesigned, as I said. The third area is off the front page, is table of contents. There's a lot of good information in there. With a lot of it, when I first set the site up back in 2004, still broken links. But the news pages are loaded all the way through. If you just start scrolling down and keep going through, they're loaded with information of a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about and for years that we've been putting up, and connections in with the financial crimes, etc., of the Bushes. But to answer your question about these two characters, I have asked about them. Everybody says, well, they're not part of us. They're not part of us. And there is nobody coming to save the government. There's people working to try to do what they can to continually expose and continually stop. I'll cite another example. I'm aware of various things that transpired over the years. I'm aware of the fact that there was, and I'll get into something that a lot of people can verify, they can look at and say, why did this happen? There were 3 explosions over a period of a 9-month period of time at British Petroleum in Houston, Texas. And I'm revealing something maybe I'm going to get in trouble on. I'm not going to say who did it, but there were 3 explosions. The first explosion had 1,000 terrorists inside of British Petroleum on that day. Those terrorists were Israeli Mossad, British intelligence, MI6, and Russian KGB agents that were all rogue, working for George Herbert Walker Bush and the New World Order. They were there to carry virals of the bird flu around the United States and to dump it into schools, into shopping centers and malls, various malls all across America, restaurants, hotels, etc. There were 1,000 of them that were going to spread the bird flu. This was about 4 years ago. You'll see the British Petroleum right out of nowhere, a lightning bolt hit British Petroleum on a nice clear day in Houston, Texas. It was all over the news. British Petroleum exploded. That was the first removal of a terrorist act that I'll say there's been many of them, but that was one that I'm aware of. There was a second explosion because they had the smallpox that they were going to spread. This was less than 6 months later. The group that I have connections to did those things. They stopped them from spreading the bird flu and from spreading the other one I just mentioned. There was a third explosion. I can't get into that. But I'm aware of things. I'm aware of things that happen. I'm only allowed to really know things, should we say, sometimes in advance if I'm involved with it and provide information of something that I've picked up on. Other times there hasn't been. They've stopped a lot of terrorist attacks. There was the second one. It's kind of far-fetched. People can read about it. It was real. It's up on my breaking news site. It's on table of contents off the front page. If you scroll down to the third column over from the left, in alphabetical order to the bottom of that column, scroll down to where you find about firefights at the Capitol. If you remember, there were supposed guns went off at the Capitol several years ago, and all this other. Well, for 3 days, they fixed cars in the basement. They hauled people in, body in from all across the country to patch up the cars that they didn't want to come out of the garage. The whole story's there. I'm aware of that. I was aware of it within 15 minutes after the firefight began. And it was over to deal with blackmail. It was over financial fraud. Read the story. Okay? So I'm aware of things. These 2 people that are going around the internet, one of them claiming to be white hats, another claiming to be this Buford, whatever his name,
Fulford. Benjamin Fulford.
Yeah.
Fulford.
I've asked if they're, connections to the good guys. They've never even heard of him. And, they're not out here. I've asked them to run a whole background on the guy and the second one that you've mentioned. And I've asked them to do that. I haven't gotten feedback yet. But they said, no, he's not part of any of us. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not out there saying that he is, or maybe he has a source within inside someplace that he's aware that there are people trying to do things. But I can tell you this, after seeing and reading some of the stuff that he said, they're far off the charts. The government is not going to save the government. Okay? Matter of fact, there are people in the military that if the people were to stand up, the whole key here is, say, the Occupy movement. If they were to have a general strike on May the 1st, which they're planning nationwide to try to get all the unions and everybody to just shut down their businesses and strike, that'd be a perfect day for maybe the American people to rise up and go in with handcuffs and arrest all public officials. That would be my opinion in having a good general strike. I'm not advocating a revolution, but maybe something like that could happen. Would the military stand behind the American people? I believe, in my own personal opinion, yes. You would have the military stand behind. Would you have a portion of the military that would reject to it? Yes, you would have. Bad people that are working for Daddy Bush and gang, been planted there for years, been there, very comfortable, their pockets have been fed, and so forth, in high levels of positions within the military. Would that happen within high levels of position of other agencies? Yes. Where does the filth lie? it lies at the National Security Agency. That's the worst agency on the face of the planet. Got 99% of them are neocons. They're Israelis infiltrated heavily within our government. It's just like our Congress and Senate. You can't be president of the United States and be a foreign agent, but you can be a congressman or a senator. And we have several of them up there that are. I mean, I consider name several of them, but I won't. I mean, I've identified them throughout the internet site on who they are in the past. But can they be president of the United States? No, they have to supposedly be born. But now we have a foreign-born Kenyan applied for a loan out at Oxley College, and the hope of claiming to be a legitimate president. I don't believe so.
Well,
not with the guy who did that, or he committed financial fraud and fraud upon those records at Oxley College. And I think, Glenn, you're smiling there, and you want to comment, go ahead about it. But,
what does your sources say about if your sources that you talk to? I mean, what is the typical person inside the government? What do they think about Obama? Do they know that he's completely illegal? And how was this allowed to happen?
Well, it was allowed to happen because he fooled everybody, and nobody really checked the records. Hillary Clinton was on to it just before during the election, because she hired an attorney working behind the scenes that actually filed suit and took it to Supreme Court, and they kicked it back out. And she was doing that to try to get in, and she was very mad that, and I might make this clear, Hillary Clinton, lesbian in the closet, was very mad. She's a witch. She's a Bush stooge, Daddy Bush stooge. This woman is a pure evil. I mean, she is evil, and she's bent. She's got that mentality of the all-white Aryan nation race attitude that blacks shouldn't even be on the planet, or Asians, or any other color or nationality. And she's a Jew, by the way. Most people don't know that. Roddenhurst was her real name. Roddenhurst, not Rodham. She was very ticked off that a black man beat her in the election.
Yeah. Do you think she's been promised something? Because it seems like, she's out there partying in South America just in the last week, and she was partying with her, I think it's her lover or whatever. Isn't it Anthony Weiner's wife or something? But, Yeah, that's her lesbian in the closet lover, Anthony Weiner's wife. Yeah. But do you think that she was, that they put her as Secretary of State to just throw a pacifier on her, and maybe they've promised her that she'll be next in line, or what do you think?
She's been promised in 2016, yes. But if you go to my website, I tell you, you can look under table of contents, look in the left-hand column, and look at the Obama gays scandal. I'm quite proud of the fact I sent a letter to Obama about his little sexual affair before he was sworn in office, about 10 days before, with Larry Sinclair, because my friends gave it to me, so I ran with it, and I sent him a letter. And it happens to be the Globe newspaper picked up off that letter and printed a story about it from my breaking news email bank that used to be operational until a week and a half ago on Good Friday. They blew it apart. But here you can see where I sent a letter to Hillary Clinton, to Barack Obama, about why would you appoint, if you want change, why would you appoint Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State? And because she's part of the problem, and of course Eric Holder is a Attorney General who was the cover-up meister for Mark Rich, and tremendous amounts of fraud during the Clinton years, which was just carryover of the Bush years, the initial Bush years. People have to remember Clinton and Bushes have been in bed together for years, and it all centers around the Mena, Arkansas, the drugs and guns, computers going to foreign enemies, declared enemies of the United States at the time, etc., in violation of the Barclay-Cohen-Denture Act, which is treason, and it's the death penalty. Wow. So that's where they lie in together. Ollie North, guns and drugs, Mena, Arkansas.
How much, when you talk to these agents that were actually in a, you said they were imprisoned and actually in a hospital, in a psychiatric ward. You said was there 2,500 agents?
Well, what had happened is when they made me a political prisoner, I was in jail with a lot of the Iran-Contra people that were being writted in, they call it. It's like being sent a subpoena when you're in prison to appear. and it's because they were being paid off of Silverado, the drug smugglers and so forth, with given artificial stock that Millman was supplying them, so they could go to Silverado, get paid by putting the stock up for loans that they never paid back, and then the FDIC, when the loans went bad, the FDIC picked up the tab on them. This is where they paid the drug dealers. But I got the famous trip to what they call Springfield, Missouri, Siberia, USA, the hospital for the criminally insane, supposedly for death threat phone calls to my ex-in-laws I was being held on. Well, the document of the the U.S. attorney at the time, Mike Norton, his bribes are right on my internet site. It's under where it says Clinton, Obama, or Bush narcotic money laundering funds, Obama, McCain. It's on the front page. It's on the breaking news page of my website, and it shows the bribes of the U.S. attorney. But they had sent me to Springfield, and I got the infamous, psychiatric full-blown evaluations, etc., where the government's own shrink said there wasn't anything the matter with me. While I was there on my 7-8 week tour, should we say, I was locked up with 3,000 other people. 2,500 of them were Iran contemplators. Many of them were drug smugglers. Many of them were FBI agents, DEA agents, Office of Naval Intelligence people, like I'd name a few. Many of them are in the book Defrauding America as a result of me, because I have the contacts in the news media. One is Bob Hunt. Bob was Office of Naval Intelligence. He was the lieutenant commander of a Naval SEAL team that went in and captured Noriega. Bob was sent there because Bob was on the phone with George Herbert Walker Bush, then President of the United States, who said, kill him, at the little Vatican residence, should we say, in Panama. Says, no, Mr. President, I have an order to capture him alive. He says, I told you to kill him, you fucker, is what Bush says. Excuse my vulgarity, folks. Bob says, fuck you, Mr. President, he's coming in alive. Those were the words. He got incarcerated down there for 6 months, held with no charges. The only guy walking around the prison in the full military uniform without any insignias on. Bob's in the book Defrauding America, the whole story about him. Another one was Bo Abbott, DEA pilot. He was asked, he used to fly to Mission and looking for airstrips in the Gulf of Mexico, along the coast, Nicaragua, etc., where maybe they took a bulldozer out for the day and knocked down a bunch of trees, made an airstrip. He was always looking for this on behalf of the good people at DEA, looking for airstrips, smuggling drugs and flying the area to see if any other planes were getting below the radar, etc. That's what his mission was every day. He'd fly down through there. Bo suddenly is asked by his bosses, Santa Barrio, Station Chief, DEA of San Antonio. They were answering, his underlayments were out of the DEA in Addison, Texas. Santa Barrio, they're saying, Bo, we want you to do something. We want you to fly a load of weapons to the Nicaragua Contras to keep from having beachfront property taken over by the Russians, was their excuse. Well, it wasn't about Russian taking over beachfront property in Nicaragua. It was about George Bush taking over the government in Nicaragua and establishing that cocaine network that he wanted. So Bo flies into the Mosquito Indians, deliver them a load of weapons, and he's told that he's going to get duffel bags stuffed full of cash. And he's in his cockpit, not moving, and they're unloading and loading in 15 minutes, and he's back in the air. He comes flying into Addison, Texas. He lands at DEA headquarters, where a big vault is, where they confiscate drugs from all over Texas, and they put the drugs in the vault, supposedly to be destroyed. And next thing you know, his boss is out there, and he sees the duffel bag, and he opens up the duffel bag, Bo does, and he says, I didn't agree to do this. This is coke. He says, yeah. He says, here, and he throws a kilo of coke at him. And he says, what are you doing? He says, that's your payment. He says, you've been compromised. He says, you're going to do what we tell you to do, and if you don't do it, we're going to bust you right now and put you in prison for 25 years.
Jeez.
Well, Bo was kind of like torn apart. He quit the DA, left the DA. He had a girlfriend. She was pregnant. They went to Switzerland. And 45 days after a child was born, he had contacted the United States Congress, United States Senate over it, trying to get hearings. They killed his wife. So he adopted his child out, came to America, and he was immediately arrested. His boss, Santabarrel, who was actually a good, clean guy, was arrested, put in a jail cell in San Antonio, and was fed a peanut butter sandwich, of which he died in that jail cell that night. Those kind of people were in Springfield with me. John Cole, counterintelligence, FBI, trying to bust bushes on shipping F-14 fighter jets, Apache helicopters, and M1 tanks. It's on my breaking news site. Up at the top part of the page, you see it says treason and sedition. Look at the documents. There was another person that was in there also. John Cole's mentioned on Sybil Edmonds' site. I think it's whistleblower.org or one of the sites that mentioned his name, counterintelligence FBI. He was in there trying to bust him for shipping these fighter jets. That's another violation of the Barclay-Cohen-Denture Act, which is treason and sedition, that they've never been punished for. That's a death penalty if you're caught doing it. And if you remember, during the Iraq War, Gulf War I, right after we went in to attack Iraq, all of a sudden you would see on the media, they mentioned on CNN and other networks, that there were 14 or 16 fighter jets, F-14, suddenly flown out of Iraq into Iran airspace and landed in an Iran air base. And they were questioning, where did these F-14 fighter jets come from, and why did they land them in Iran? They made an agreement, Iran and Iraq did, protect my fighter jets. But those fighter jets were fighter jets that were shipped, Saddam Hussein illegally, stolen from the United States government by George Herbert Walker Bush and shipped to Iran and Iraq, Libya. Gaddafi got a few in Libya and Egypt. They all got fighter jets. It was part of the EATSCO, the European, and it was what Ed Wilson had gotten. Look up EATSCO on the internet. There's stuff about it. EATSCO. Plenty of information up there. But these are things that these people have done. But these kind of people were in jail with me in Springfield. Many Iran-Contra players. Many sources that I won't say that later went back to work for him, went to work for the Daddy Bush shadow government crowd. And I've come across many other people that are now dead that are mentioned in several books. Who was Harry Rupp, also known as Heinrich Rupp. He was Adolf Hitler's pilot at the age of 17, defected at 18, went into the OSS, remained there until after the Kennedy murder, and after Bush killed Kennedy, all of the defectors from World War II, all the Nazis, were legally became Americans in December of 1963, which is a very significant date that most people were unaware of. Harry Rupp also became a legitimate citizen. He was a good friend of mine. I would visit with him on many occasions in Arapahoe, Colorado, where he lived when I was living in Denver for a year. We had some good talks. He collapsed Aurora Bank of Colorado. Supposedly, his collapse. They jailed him for 18 months, tried to cover it up and blame him for it. He's in defrauding America also. He came through some sources other than Springfield, should we say. But Harry was George Herbert Walker Bush's personal pilot. He was one of the top CI pilots in the world, just like John Lear, my friend, whose father owned Learjets. John was an Area 51 pilot. I've come to know a lot of people over the years. As many people have said, there's only about 3 of us. Well, I'll put it this way without mentioning names. I talked to someone recently, an old Mena, Arkansas figure. Said, Stu, there's only 3 of us still living that were the whistleblowers around during that period of time. He says, one's you, one's me, and one's Al Martin. And Al Martin's got almartinraw.com, who was the Iran-Contra whistleblower. And, of course, I found out since there are a few others around, like Leo Wanta that I work with on occasion, and Tom Hannigan and some others have been around fighting whistleblowers that never were quite out there in the front end, where Leo has actually been a counterintelligence agent for the government itself, the Mitterrand-Reagan protocols. So there's a lot of people I've come in contact with over
Stu,
the
All right.
Stu, why don't you take a break for a second? We're going to go to a commercial for a second, and we'll be right back. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So hang on there, Stu, and hang on, Glenn. Incredible information and a whole lot of it as well. Hey, you're hearing it right here on Late Night in the Midlands. We'll be back in a few minutes, everybody. Again, the call-in number, 858-683-1309. Call in to listen or call in to get on the air, but if you're going to do that, you need to press 1 after you dial in, so we know you want to come on. Once again, I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I've got Glenn Kennedy sitting in with me, and we've got Stu Webb as our guest, and we'll be back in just a moment.
5-Star Shine carries the world's best accessories for your vehicle, including their world-famous 5-Star Shine paint protection system. 5-Star Shine protects your vehicle with a super slick coating of PTFE. PTFE is used in the U.S. space program and is the same material used to make non-stick cookware. 5-Star Shine actually keeps your vehicle cleaner with a dazzling shine. To see 5-Star Shine and all their other products, go to 5starshine.com. That's the number 5starshine.com, or you can go to latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the 5-Star Shine menu option.
This message is for all business owners. I've got Chris Osborne from PromoteYourWebsite.com with me today. I've actually known Chris for over 35 years. We've worked together in many different businesses over the years, and I'm very happy to now have Chris on our team at InSearch. Chris, PromoteYourWebsite.com has been helping business owners now for over 15 years. What is the most important thing business owners need to know about their website?
Well, Glenn, business owners need to really know that they can compete with big business out there, and they can get a lot of traffic and sales to their website if they optimize and promote their site the right way. We all know that a good-looking website is a great resource for existing customers, but it's essentially worthless for attracting new customers. Most web designers are concerned with delivering a nice-looking, functional website, but they're really not hired to bring a company more business. So that's where search engine optimization, or SEO, and search engine marketing, SEM, comes in.
What can a business owner do right now?
Well, they can get their site marketed properly. As you mentioned earlier, we've been working on marketing websites for about 15 years now, and we've learned what works and what doesn't work. We can absolutely help your listeners get substantially more traffic and business to their website if they want to do more business in 2012. But they have to be proactive by calling us, and they really have to want to develop a stronger customer base. To make things easy for them, we've developed a special offer for all of the Radio InSearch listeners. If they'll call us at 817-453-0339, or go out to our website at www.promoteyourwebsite.com and mention that they listen to Radio InSearch, we'll give each listener a 15% discount on all of our services.
Hey, thanks so much for talking to us today, Chris. And if you're a business owner that needs more traffic and sales from your website, make sure you go over to PromoteYourWebsite.com or just call my friend Chris at 817-453-0339.
Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Update, God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and much more. Researched under the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, Jose Collazo has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating others. You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com, or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Get your copy now.
Only one candidate for president says he will bring our troops home from Iraq.
We went in there illegally. We did not declare war. It's lasting way too long. We're losing this one. We shouldn't be there. We ought to just come home.
Ron Paul wants government off the backs of working people. He'll rein in the IRS, cut taxes, and runaway deficit spending.
The Constitution was written very precisely to restrain the power and force of government and to protect the liberties of each and every one of us. We have allowed our nation to be overtaxed and overregulated and overrun by bureaucrats. The founders would be ashamed of us for what we're putting up with.
A veteran, doctor, 10-term congressman, and strong family man, Ron Paul is a patriot we can be proud to call our next president.
Our campaign is all about freedom, prosperity, and peace.
Ron Paul, a president to be proud of.
You're listening to Late Night in the Midlands on Radio Insert. We cover everything.
Okay, everybody, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and we're broadcasting live on Radio Insert. I've got Glenn Kennedy with me, and our guest tonight is Stu Webb. He is a whistleblower. Just more information than you could probably find on Wikipedia, and definitely more credible. So 858-683-1309. Press 1 so we know you want to get on the air. You can also call in using Skype, and, well, the link is right on latenightinthe.midlands.com. You'll also find it on project.inserts.com. Click on that Blog Talk Radio Insert show page link, and it will take you right over there. And you'll see a Skype symbol right next to the call-in number, and that's how you'll do that. But if you want to make it simple and easy, 858-683-1309. And make sure you get over to latenightinthe.midlands.com, project.inserts.com, and the social network inserts.com. Become a member and be informed. Glenn, we're back, and Stu, we're all back. All right.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, I'd like to switch gears for a little bit, and then we can go back to talk about whatever you want. But let's talk about the state of technology of the United States. I mean, we know that they tell us that the space shuttle was our only space vehicle that could get, a lot of stuff into orbit and things like that. But Stu, what can you tell us?
Impounded.
What can you tell us about the real state of technology that the United States possesses?
Well, some things I won't discuss because I really don't. I'm taking too much heat now. Okay, but I'm aware of a new airplane that they have, and they've had it for a couple of years, and they did a test run a couple of years ago on it. It flies at between 5,000 and 6,000 miles an hour. It's pretty fast, and it's some kind of propellant that actually will jump, and it leaves, instead of a trail behind it, a contrail, which is not a chemical trail, but a contrail which hit moisture in the air. It actually jumps the way that the engine. It's a burst, a consistent burst in the engine. In layman terms, is what it was explained to me. And they did the test run, and when they did, it sent China ballistics and it sent Russia ballistics when they flew over their airspace, taking pictures as their test run. But it came out of Area 51, and we've got those planes now. But, our technology, we've got 150 saucers, flying saucers in our own arsenal. The government has had for years. The Israelis have them, the British have them, the French have them. I understand the Germans have them and the Russians have them. Our technology is so far off the charts with the alien technology that it's just people couldn't even believe it. You have to understand where it all came from, and it goes back to the alien technology they call goes back to Nikola Tesla, our scientist. If any of you are familiar with his work, if not, go up on the internet. The internet's become like a library out there of information. There's one hell of a lot of disinformation. Of course, that's a lot of the government stuff, and a lot of the, as George Herbert Walker Bush calls them, the bad people, the broke, the useless, and the oppressed, the American people. It's their opinion. But there are some sites out there that have real, true information. And believe me, the American people are waking up more than ever, and the information flow is just tremendous. I mean, it's like myself. I go to my Facebook page or I go to my Twitter page. I'm seeing stuff coming out going, whoa, this is unbelievable that it's finally hitting the head. But Nikola Tesla was one of our scientists in the turn of the century. And what he discovered was by two magnetic fields against each other in a round disk with magnets placed at a certain point and turning opposite of each other, that you could create a vortex of energy, V-O-R-T-E-X of energy, they called it. He found out that the higher he cranked it up, that the machine left his working bench. So, he molded it down, it moved the bench sideways. He thought, what's going to happen if I turn it the other way? Well, it became anti-gravity, which they've made the saucers out of. Third was, of course, space-time. The higher he cranked that up, this was a free energy machine. The higher he cranked it up, all of a sudden he found out, wow, there's a black hole in front of me, and he's looking at people in another time. And then from there it went into weather manipulation, which they did on Pikes Peak. They built a tower out there, the first HARP tower, true HARP tower, on Pikes Peak, and, generals are out there, and all these people are out there, and wow, all of a sudden everybody's getting hit with lightning bolts from this storm that he just created from this. Well, the technology has led to the super collider being able to look in Texas and also in Switzerland. And the one in Switzerland is primarily used to look into the future. They've seen things in the future, the government has, that, as an example, December the 22nd, 2012, our whole universe lines up in a planetary alignment with Earth, Mars, etc., our planets and the moon and everything in a big cross. And they can't see after that, but yet they can see through the super collider in Switzerland. They can see into other galaxies they've never experienced before. With that HARP technology, they've been able to move the jet stream. I was the first to ever report on it on my website in April, a couple of years ago, after Texas got bombarded with all that ice in Oklahoma in April. And it was because they moved the jet stream 500 miles to the south. And they were actually reporting this and watching it and so forth. And then I was told they're going to move it back, watch what happens. And sure enough, within 12 hours, the jet stream sitting 500 miles back to the north where it was originally positioned. Part of the problem with all this technology is they're destroying the planet. And just like the HARP, if you notice, if you just take the Weather Channel or go to weather.com, and look at the thing. Every day they're reporting on it, don't even know it. I've sent everybody at that station. I've sent local meteorologists, etc. Hey, take a look at what Jesse Ventura's put out, what I've put out. Jesse Ventura has a similar source that I have. I don't want to get into it, but he did a whole series on this, weather modification, how they were able to do the jet stream, and after that he lost his program. It was because of that. Now, what has occurred in the past couple of years, since they've been able to manipulate the jet stream, if you look at the weather map, you'll always see that the jet stream's coming off the HARP tower. It's because the HARP tower, one of them, is in Alaska, and that's the main controlling tower, and that was the first one that they had built to be able to tap into the electromagnetic field of the planet. Now, I'm just a layman when it comes to all this technology, okay, because a lot of it I don't even understand, but the basics. But I know that if you look at the weather map, and it changes all the time, jet stream, they're able to split the jet stream. I've seen it happen. They're able to take that jet stream just like last week, and they dipped it down from the Alaskan, or not Alaska, but Canadian-U.S. border up north of the Dakotas and so forth, and they brought it down along the Rocky Mountains. Actually, brought it down there. It dipped down in Arizona. Is actually to the further west towards Oregon, or to the east of Oregon, and they dipped it down over Arizona, came back up along the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, and it sat there for 2 days, and it cut directly straight across east after it had reached Minnesota, cut across east and went back across the Canadian border. The jet stream has never done this before. It's just wherever they want to move it now with the joystick, they can park it there because of the electromagnetic field that they're using to control it. And they're doing it for weather wars. I was told that this is one of the ways they're going to start depopulating the earth. We're getting it through the chemtrails. This is another way. Weather wars. Hit a whole city like Branson, Missouri got hit this past year, just a month ago. Springfield, Missouri got it the year before. I mean, they're not talking about the 1,000 people that disappeared or unaccounted for that were in Springfield. They mentioned about 150 of them, but they're not talking about that 1,000. They won't be talking about that 1,000 missing out of Kentucky. They won't be talking about the 1,000 in the future storms that they'll be having missing here and 1,000 missing there. You get the drift?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Every disaster, I mean, I've experienced this myself because Hurricane Ivan hit near Pensacola, Gulf Breeze area, which was where I was living. And they came out and said that only like 20-something people died total in that storm. That was a massive storm and very powerful. But, you know, we knew some people that were working the fire department, and there was over 20-something just in one little county, and that wasn't even the worst hit. So, and I've heard also that they vastly underestimate what happened at that hurricane that hit north of Miami with Homestead Air Force Base. Can't remember when that was, in the 80s, but it leveled. I remember
when Jeb Bush was in there.
Yeah, I remember
up all his bags of cocaine. He wasn't worried about the people, but he was worried about his Homestead Air Force Base getting hit with all, flying his drugs all over the place.
Yeah, and I just remember seeing pictures at the time, and it showed entire neighborhoods where there wasn't anything left but the foundations, and I don't even remember the official death toll, but it was nothing compared to what it was. I mean, I heard that there was refrigerated morgue trucks there, and so everything that, if they tell you, 50 people died, it's probably more like 500, or who knows, it could even be more. So, yeah, they always are underestimating that. But, yeah, what do you know about Fukushima? Have you heard any things that aren't common knowledge?
That is just, when you look at all the things that are going on that they've done now, in that it was really the strangest thing, but Tom Hennigan had reported that they were using the Japanese as a trading platform, the island of Japan. They were using a trading platform to do a Ponzi scheme. He's following constantly on the trail of this movement of the money and the various things. And Tom's very good at what he does with that. It's up on my site consistently. Whenever he does a post, it's onto the breaking news. And if you go back and look, I mean, there's a correlation here with all of a sudden Japan gets hit with this earthquake. They find out it's HAARP earthquake. It wasn't a natural, but it was HAARP-created earthquake. And it's right after he does a posting about them using that as a trading platform. Well, the only way that they weren't going to get busted by the Japanese government is if the Japan government had went into an emergency mode because of some emergency condition. I think it was because of what happened in that posting, exposing them, that they came in and hit Japan intentionally. And what they've done is they caused, and this is Daddy Bush doing this. This is George Herbert Walker Bush has his power. It's because he's one of the 100 Templar bankers, and he hit that thing. We got on the coast, the West Coast right now. We've had for 2 months now, trash floating up, bicycles, car hoods, cars, saying houses are hitting the Hawaii island areas now. And what's amazing is, I heard a couple comments here and there on this mainstream If you look at weather.com or Weather Channel, you get more news out about what's happening on the planet than you will find on mainstream media whatsoever, because mainstream media is totally controlled by them. And it's the reason all these alternative media outlets, such as you guys, yourself, your radio programs, truth has to come out to the American people, because, it's not coming out, hasn't since about 1992, and then when they bought up all the media and TV, and then it turned by the 2000 time frame, they're buying out all the radio networks, and that's the reason, I used to do a radio network that would be hooked up to 300 stations live across the nation. I can't get on those anymore because they won't allow guys like me or even yourselves to be on that. But in the Japanese thing, look at the radiation poisoning coming up right now. I mean, I've been seeing the numbers coming off of Facebook where people are out looking and they're digging and they're posting. And, I've got quite a few followers on Facebook, 1,600 or something, but then you have your list and your subscribes, they call them the subscribers. They got their list, and, it gets up to around 40,000 people following me that, you hit the button and they get the information. But I'm watching these 1,600 people constantly post the stuff. It's incredible. I mean, it's like I'd like to, and eventually I will get that to run in the live stream right on my internet site soon, where people can see some of the other stuff coming. But the radiation poisoning levels along the West Coast are just phenomenal what's going on right now. And this is worldwide. I mean, what has that done to the fish of the sea? It's like the fish in the Gulf of Mexico. If you look at what Jesse Ventura had reported on, he reported on the fact that in the Gulf of Mexico, this was after I'd put up stuff about initially when it first happened, the oil spill with the BP situation. I put up about the two deadly gases, which are the deadly gases when they are drilling out the oil. You got a fire stack consistently on top, and it's burning off these two deadly gases, the hydrate something, I forgot the names of them, I posted on my site at the time. And these are the two gases where if you breathe it, you're dead. I mean, wherever that oil came up out of the Gulf, as an example, okay, and they hit it with this cortex, I think they call it.
It, yeah.
Yeah, that has the cyanide and the arsenic in it and other deadly chemicals. They got two skimmers they made after the Valdez to go in and suck up the oil. Spray it with that and go and suck in the oil, and it just sits there and takes the water out of the oil, and they got pure oil.
Yeah.
I noticed that the BPs, if you look at right after that oil spill, within 60 days, when BP did its quarterly report, it said they had 300 and some odd 1,000% increase in profits. It was because of all that oil that they pulled out of there. What did they leave behind? Besides all that death, all the fish, they left a dead zone. Because all that gas is sitting there in the ocean right now, it's coming out in small bubbles. It could pop up in a big bubble. And they say that because of the ocean currents, the most likely spot is where you're at, Glenn, up there in northern Florida. Come right up over the top. Your neighbor, all of a sudden, you see drop, and you wonder what's going on. You run over to see what happened to him, and you take a breath of this gas that you can't see. You're dead, too. But that gas, dead birds around the planet, flocks of dead birds.
Right.
They believe, people in intelligence believe that it's part of that gas popping up out of there. Because eventually it's all going to work its way out of the ocean. But it's leaving a big dead zone. And they're finding microorganisms now that they never have ever seen grow before as a result. Similar to what red tide is and other things.
Yeah,
so we got...
I was just going to say, I was going to say that there just was some articles today about how the shrimp in the Gulf and some of the other life are undergoing like massive deformities. And people are, and there, of course, the government's saying that, the seafood is safe, but the government hasn't even warned us that radiation's already entered the food chain all over California. I mean, all the produce coming out of California, I guarantee you it's all radioactive. but they don't care, and that's why we've got to all do more. We can't wait for, anybody, any one radio show host or whatever to save us. We have got to do it ourselves, and I'm glad to see that I've seen some other radio show hosts to really start telling people, like, what are you doing, because it's like, that's so true, because it's not going to change until everybody takes action themselves. But
they've got to action. Glenn, I'm in agreement with you there, because I've watched this over the years, and I've watched it in the Patriot community, because it was way back. Even Rodney Stitch, Margie Sloan, others with Time Magazine, and Rodney wrote the book, written 20 books. Former FAA investigator. Defrauding America is one of the best ones, and Drugging America, and he's got some incredible stuff. If you go to defraudingamerica.com, but as Rodney said, he says, God Almighty, he says, we started waking the people up. He says, back in the early 90s, all banging the radio. I said, well, Rodney, I said, you're probably right. I never realized it, and I'm just one person, but there were 4 or 5 of us out there. Terry Reed was out there, Al Martin was out there, myself, Rodney Stitch, and there were several others, and Larry Nichols. But I've watched over the years various things. And what I've watched is people want a leader. They want someone to pick up the ball for them, because so many people are scared to do it themselves. Say, they're afraid of government and so forth. And I'm telling you something. It isn't a leader game. It isn't going to be Ron Paul's going to save your rear ends. Nobody's going to save you. If it's death and destruction, the end of the planet, the only person that's going to save you is Jesus Christ, God Almighty. Okay, that's the only thing that's going to save you. But let's go past that and say it's not going to be the end of the planet, that we're just building up to it, okay, maybe, okay, and that death and destruction is going to come and we got all this evil. Let's pretend it's that way and not the end times, okay? What are we going to do about it? You're right. It isn't one person's going to save anybody, and it isn't going to be some leader come along and save anybody. Ron Paul's not going to get elected president of the United States, because these bastards control the election voting booths. They were intentionally designed to be put in there. And I'll tell you why. Go to my breaking news, StuWebb.com, scroll down, not breaking news, but table of contents. Go to the third column over, alphabetical order. Go to the bottom and read about U.S. intelligence to monitor election. Okay? And what it is in there, I know all about that, because I kept trying to get the U.S. intelligence to put their satellites down over the election booths over this country and really monitor this thing back in the 2000 election. I couldn't get it done. I didn't have the muscle and juice to get it done. Finally, by 2004, they agreed, maybe Stu's got something here. It's just like people, when I told them about the Knights Templar banker, a bunch of Satanists that cut up little kids and drink their blood and this shit on satanic holidays. Oh, Stu, you're off the charts. You can't talk about this kind of thing on the air. You shouldn't. People won't believe you. Well, it's all true. And now they call them all, I'll mention Bush, and they go, that satanic son of a bitch. They call him the Satanist now. Instead of, Daddy Bush, they're calling him the Satanist. So they come to realize what this guy is all about. But nobody's going to save this planet. It's going to have to be us all come together. We need a revolution. I'm not advocating one, but it's the only way that we're going to clean the problem up. It's because Washington is so corrupt. 9 out of 10 congressmen are corrupt on the Hill. The only ones that are halfway decent, you got Ron and Rand Paul. You got James Webb up there. You've had Dennis Kucinich.
Yeah.
He's out of the game now because of redistricting. Different ones like that. The rest of them are filth. They're all been paid off, bribed, or they're chipped. And I've heard that 6 out of 10 of them got a chip in them, and they're totally controlling them. And if you look at the stories we've done on Abramoff, besides what I was talking about, the voting booth being controlled, if you look at the stories on Abramoff, they've taken them to children whorehouses, played that game on them, blackmailed, compromised them in every way, shape, and or form. And this has all been, it all comes back to George Herbert Walker Bush, my ex-in-law Leonard Millman is now deceased, the guy that took over for him, because every time one of the 100 Illuminati bankers, people don't understand, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Millmans, the Bushes, etc., when they die, they leave to the next one who's in charge. Like when my ex-in-law, he inherited from Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky was his boss. He actually, Millman had what was his name that was running the Hollywood crowd, but they were building Tropicana at the time, Bugsy Siegel. He had Bugsy Siegel killed as a result of stealing the money off the Trop. After all the mob dons says, it's okay, the Mossad mob dons. But Millman took over from Meyer Lansky, and all that money that Meyer Lansky had controlled went into Millman's control, except a few million that they left for the family members. The same way, I've heard that the Millman estate left $25 billion to, the Miami.
Hey guys, we're having a technical issue right here. I'm going to try to get connected back on this video.
Blog Talk Radio. You are now in the host queue.
Come up with the idea to do Sam's across America and break all the mom and pop operations, close down all these little businesses across America by creating these giant Walmarts. Okay, everybody says, well, God, I love Walmart because it's so cheap. Oh, yeah, it's so cheap. But what happened to the mom and pop operations, and what happened to America? In 1981, these 1% that Occupy identifies as the 1%. It's true. They had 20% of the GPD, the economy. Today, now, that 1% grew to 5%, and they're in control of 90 to 95% of the U.S. economy since 1981. We flip-flopped, where 99% of us controlled 80% of our economy before. Here's the way it's played. Sam Walton comes up with a great idea, doing these Walmarts. Millman says, okay, I'll finance you, no problem. He says, start building. So they get AIG, they set up all these companies where they're building the Walmart shopping centers. Walmart takes the 99-year lease, offshore companies. So by making them offshore trusts and offshore companies, they don't have to pay federal income tax on the revenues off these shopping centers. They're all across America. A tremendous amount of them that are...
Did we lose Stu? Glenn, are you still here?
Yeah, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. We lost Stu, so I'm sure he'll call right back in. Glenn, why don't I take a break because we're past it anyhow?
Okay, yeah, take that break, and I'll give him a call and tell him something's going on here. All right, thanks, buddy.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, thanks, Glenn. So just hang on, everybody. We'll get Stu back on the line here. Every now and then we get a guest that I just sit back and listen. I mean, he's given us a ton of information, answering questions before I could even ask him. Sometimes I like nights like this. 858-683-1309. Press 1 so we know you want to get on the air. Maybe you'll stay on. I don't know.
Yeah, he just got
zapped over here.
Give
us a minute, and we'll be back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. My guest, Stu Webb, and Glenn Kennedy with us as well. We'll be right back. Is it possible to read a person's thoughts?
Yeah.
Can we implant thoughts also?
Yeah,
Is
can you hear
evidence of the
Yeah, you got knocked off on your phone, I think. But it's a
increases in earthquakes due to nuclear
yeah.
testing.
You just call
Author
back
Jose
in.
Collazo
We're on a.
says
We
yes,
took a break
and he
for a
has
while
the
until you
proof
get back
in his
in.
3 books titled
So we're
America's New
the
Slavery,
screener will take your call as soon as you get in
Technology,
there.
America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Updates, God Does Exist, No More
So far,
Nuclear
I've
Testing,
been able to hold
and
my
much
connection,
more.
except I lost
Research
my.
under the Freedom
I think
of
something's
Information
going on
Act
with
and
Blog
other
Talk
sources,
because I lost
Jose
my
Collazo
connection to
has
Blog
the
Talk
proof
about 5
to
minutes
most of his
before
claims and
you
is
did.
investigating others.
So
You can get
hopefully,
copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.
Do you hear? Did you hit 1? Are you hearing? Did you hit the 1? Push 1 when you get
or you can
the.
click the book banner
Push
on the
1
main page right
after
next
you
to
get.
the chat room on
You did okay.
www.latenightthemidlands.com.
I'll tell.
Get your copy
Well,
now.
make sure it
Are
says
you
you're in the
looking for
host
ways to
queue,
get your business or
and
website
I'll
noticed?
I'll
In
get
these
my
tough
iPad
times,
and
are you
tell them
looking for ways to
that
increase
you'll be
sales?
waiting. So
Well, you're in luck. Late Night
Okay.
in the Midlands is
I'll be
a
right
great
back.
way to get your message to the masses without spending all your hard-earned dollars. We offer affordable packages for on-air runs and make it easy for you to purchase ad space on the website. If it is just a banner ad placement you're looking for, go to www.latenightinthe.midlands.com, and on the right-hand side under the player, you will see your options. Select your option and email your banner to us at latenightinthe.midlands@yahoo.com, and we can have you being seen by thousands upon thousands around the world who visit the Late Night in the Midlands website. Or if it's an on-air run you're interested in, then contact me at latenightinthe.midlands@yahoo.com, and let's work out a deal you can afford and start letting us help you be noticed. Learn the secrets of free energy and get off the grid forever. Radio N-Search wants all listeners to spread the word that free energy devices are real and now being used to power homes, businesses, and vehicles all over the world. Everything you ever wanted to know about free energy devices is now at your fingertips in an incredible ebook that you can download right now. You'll get detailed plans, sources, and even hear an audio interview by the engineer that wrote the book. In the interview, you'll learn which devices have been duplicated and which are the easiest to build. You can even contact the author by email if you have any questions or want to know which companies have working commercial devices for sale. To get your free energy ebook, join Project.
He said that he's got you on hold, so you should be good as soon as the commercial ends.
Log in and you will
Just,
see your ebook menu options. Only signed-in members will be able to see the ebook menu options on the websites. China has already begun building free energy devices, but the U.S. government has suppressed over 44,000 patents on free energy. They don't want you to have free energy. Get this information now and share it before they can censor it all. Share the information so they can't stop it. To get this ebook, just join project.nsearch.com or latenightinthe.midlands.com and click the ebook menu option when you are logged in. If you know anybody that would love to learn how free energy devices can power your home, business, or vehicles, then tell them to click on the free energy menu option of project.nsearch.com or latenightinthe.midlands.com. Get the information on free energy and spread it everywhere. Please post links to the free.
You want the truth? You want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. So go become a member. Be informed. Late Night in the Midlands. We cover everything.
Okay, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. Our guest tonight, Stu Webb. Glenn Kennedy is hosting with me tonight as well. 858-683-1309. Again, 858-683-1309. You could press 1. So we know you want to get on the air. You can also call in using Skype. So we're going to get back to it here. Glenn and Stu, we are back, and it seems that we had some technical difficulties there.
Yeah, we're back. It
Well,
looks
it seems like I'm not sure what I was talking about the mom and pop operations being killed and how they did it with Walmarts and so on and so forth.
Oh, they did a good.
They would finance and they hold the stock. But the problem is we have 5% of the people in the United States, really 5%. These are the corporate heads. And my understanding is they actually have in place this new world order, these one world government, this Illuminati bankers, that in the event if something were to happen to them and say someone decided and people decide to rise up and take them out, they actually have in place. They call it the gray men's empire. Well, you have to ask yourself, who are the gray men referred to? You know, you have the alternatives out here talking about the aliens talking to them. Well, yeah. They're considered to be the gray men, okay? They aren't aliens, people. This whole alien thing is all real, and it deals with the international bankers, these 100 Illuminati bankers. What is the Illuminati? Well, the Illuminati, just look on the back of the bill and pretend for a moment. You see an all-seeing eye, which is Lucifer at the top of the pyramid. Underneath it, you know, in... no, I forgot what it is. It says New World Order. It's in Latin. And the first layer directly underneath the all-seeing eye are the 100 Templar bankers, Illuminati Templar bankers. They hijacked Templars years ago. Well, if you look at the history of the Templars, they re-resurrected in the 1100th century. All of a sudden they had financing, they had, you know, the banking, they had shipping, they had trading companies. They were super wealthy. Well, I've been told that it's really fallen angels. Fallen angels have been around thousands of years, okay, since there was a war in heaven, and I'm a true believer in God and Christ, and I believe in what the Word says. And there was a war, and they were cast down the planet. Well, they've been around a long time. So they've had a long time to deceive mankind, and they've lived for 1,000 years. But these entities can jump into humans, and they transfer themselves from one human to another human. So what you have is you have this international banking cartel that's been around for years, since the beginning of the Rothschilds. Oh, let me take your money and keep it safe, and I'll issue you paper, okay? Way, way back, a couple centuries ago. And it's them. It's the fallen angels. They got to have humans to do this. They have to have a human being to do it. Now, I believe that George Herbert Walker Bush, I believe my ex-in-law now, that's now dead, but Larry Mizell, I believe that they are occupied by a fallen angel, an entity. That's my own personal opinion.
Stu, just a side issue here. You know, and I want to preface this by saying, first of all, you know, the enemy of the New World Order is my friend. And I know that David Wilcock, I believe he's got a good heart. But what do you think about when he channels Ra? Do you think that he opens himself up to just getting deceptive information, or what do you think about people that channel?
Well, what do you think about the devil? He's always trying to deceive. Let's understand the devil, okay? Let's understand the deception. If you're going to channel something, you should be channeling the Holy Spirit through you, and do it in the name of God and asking God, and He'll tell you the truth. If you sit by and wait, if you're asking for something, sit by and wait. Eventually, He's going to give you the answer. Prayer works, folks. And the only way prayer works is not to go to church on Sunday and get all warmed up on the bench and feel good, hope that preacher's going to pray for you and you're going to get your prayers answered. That doesn't work. You want a prayer answered, God taught me a long time ago to teach others prayer, the power of prayer. Get on your hands and knees before Him and start talking to Him and rebuke and, confess and get away from whatever you're doing that you're sinning that's causing you the blockage to get your prayers answered. Okay? The enemy's always in there to destroy. Now, let's look at the enemy for a minute. When you channel and you channel in some entity that's some supposedly good entity and some bad entity, there's no fallen angels that are good. And there's no angels out there going to channel through you. Okay? The only thing that's going to move through you that's any good, and it's not evil, it's going to be the Holy Spirit, okay, which comes from God. We're in a battle of good versus evil, and people have to understand this. But what is the devil? He's a deceiver, he's a liar, he's a thief, and he's a killer. And that's what these people represent. There's nothing good about George Herbert Walker Bush. There's nobody on the planet can say a damn thing that's good about that man. He's a liar, he's a thief, and he's a killer. Exactly what he follows, Satan. Now, you look at Leonard Nolman, he was the same way. He never made a legitimate dollar in his life. And I'll back up for a minute. If I'd known when I met that woman, believe me, I wouldn't have ever took the woman out on a date. Okay? Up a little further here. Entities. These entities jump in and out of people. They channel through people. They use people. They have to have the humans in order to do it. Okay? So when people say, and I hear this, oh, well, Ra or some other entity told me to do this, it's just like I ask myself, you know, I got a little kind of strange history on my mother's side. And it comes back to the Mormon Church. And it comes back, I call it the Church of Satan today, because it has become. It's just like the Catholic Church. Who in the hell is running the Catholic Church? The Black Pope behind the scenes. He's one of the 100 Templar bankers. Who's running the Jewish synagogues worldwide? Anzar Ben Shari of Israel, the head of the Hedron, who's also an Illuminati banker. All the 100 Illuminati bankers worship Satan. But here's an interesting point about family background. My great-great-great-grandfather was Orrin Porter Rockwell. He was a Utah sheriff that was in charge, U.S. Marshal, or the Utah Marshal, that was in charge of the Utah Territory. When they started slaughtering a bunch of the people coming over there to form their church, he says, no, you're not going to slaughter our people on U.S. territory. Now, what's kind of interesting, I'm kind of proud of this in some sense. There's been 2 times in U.S. history as the U.S. government made treaty with its own people. Once was with the Mormons because of my grandfather, who deputized people and who created militias and went out in the middle of the night, stole the horses from the cavalry that was going to kill everybody in that territory. He says, no, they're human beings. You aren't going to kill them. I've been given a commission to ensure that everybody lives a normal life and safe in my territory. The other, of course, was the Indians. Now, what did Joseph Smith, who started the Mormon Church, he claims he met with an angel. What angel did he meet with? Morian something, whatever it was. He was channeling. It's because he was drinking heavily. Well, what, multiple wives? Doesn't that also, the thought of such a thing, come from an evil side of the equation? Okay, let's be realistic about this channeling crap and all the other stuff. Okay?
Yeah, you got these guys like I call them the Federation.
The brain. Pardon me?
I was just going to say, you've got Greg Giles out there who channels the Galactic Federation of Light, and you see that on Rumor Mill News all the time, and people are finally...
Mill, let's talk about her for a minute, too. Go ahead, though.
I think, she puts out some good information, but she allows this channeling stuff to come out, and... that's my big issue with that is I've been watching these channelers and it's always, things are really, progressing nicely. The bankers are almost about to be arrested. We're going to be appearing in your skies more and more. And you can tell even on Rumor Mill News that more and more people aren't buying it anymore. They're sick of the channelers. They're sick of the delays. And like I tell them, you cannot depend on aliens. Everybody out there, you guys can all rebuke demons. You can rebuke demons in your life. I've done it myself when I felt a demon was going to... I felt a dark presence walk into my room late at night. I mean, I just felt it occupy the room, and I felt it trying to go into my crown chakra or my top of my head. And I called out, I said, "Help me, Jesus." And immediately, as soon as I did that, that presence was gone. And that's why I tell people, quit depending on channelers and get right with God. And I know, Stu, that you've had a chance to rebuke demons in yourself, and you've seen the power of God. You want to talk about that real briefly?
Yeah, I will, but I'm going to say something. I'm going to get her ticked off, and I don't care, because it's time for truth to become off. Why is Ray Allen known, Ray Allen Rossbacher, who was married to Gunther Rossbacher, and Gunther gave me some stuff. As a matter of fact, Ray Allen was the first to hook me up on the phone why Gunther was in jail in 1991. Right after I get my tires shot out, got all the media and all the congressional investigations going on, and a reporter, Steve Williamson with the Denver Post, said you should contact her because he claims that he has ownership of some of the land at the airport. Okay, so I contact, and he was in jail. He was calling her. She three-ways us. Okay? I have some very interesting tapes that I'm going to release, and I'm going to release those Gunther Rossbacher tapes. It's time to be released, and Ray Allen's on them. But I would ask one thing, and I know that Ray Allen's going to get this back at her, okay? I would ask something of Ray Allen. Why is it that people in the CIA call you the Black Widow?
Well, I guess
that's my question to Ray Allen.
Well, she
Am
seems...
I going to say any more about Ray Allen? No, I'm not.
Well, like I said, she seemed like a nice lady, but I was a little upset. I asked her and her webmaster very nicely to give me access to be able to post on her site, and all I get is ignored now because I outed...
Her husband died. 3 days later, she married Gunther Rossbacher.
Wait.
I'm not saying no more. The Black Widow. Okay?
Okay. Well, I guess you'll be releasing information. We can learn more about that. But
facts, I really don't care. All I'm doing is telling the truth.
Well,
and Ray Allen, we had some interesting telephone conversations, and soon those are going to be released too. Okay?
Well, it's time for everybody to release everything. That's why we had to jump on old Richard Hoagland, because we had hard evidence that he was definitely hiding images of Mars, and he tried to get a man committed to an insane asylum against his will, just to shut him up when he found out about this cover-up of these images. Off topic real quick, but what can you tell us about life on the moon or Mars, or anything that we might have there or aliens might have on the moon or Mars?
I think if you go to John Lear, who's a friend of mine, I've been in his home many times, but John, was a test pilot at Area 51. Now, what it is the true alien base is at Papoose, Lake Nevada, 60 miles south of Area 51. I'm aware of that, but John, I've mentioned it to him, and he'll nod that he's aware. But Bob Lazar worked there. BobLazar.com. Lazzar, I think it is, .com. He's got pictures of those bases. It's been going on for years, okay? We have to go back to something that I've learned from many people, including my friend who's now dead, was killed in October, Ed Slade, the U.S. scientist that worked with the aliens. And I said, Ed, if you had known when you were the scientist at Area 51, and he was credited for the lunar module that landed on the moon during the Apollo project, and he said, Stu, he says, damn, he says, the craziest thing, he says, I'm sitting there looking at that after I designed it, they built it, and the whole bit. He says, those lying bastards, they didn't use it. He said they used alien technology. They used the anti-gravity. That's the reason there wasn't anything blowing up off the face of the surface. He said they had the modules there. It looked like, they had the jet propulsion and all that, but he said that's the reason it wasn't. He said they used the alien technology because they had it in storage. So they just pulled it out and used it in the many units that they had. But the question, I'm sorry, Glenn.
Well, I just wanted to know, like, you made a good point, and that is one of the evidences that a lot of people say is, when they show that landing gear on that lunar module, it's completely pristine. There's no dust on it, and I believe that that's what your contact said.
Conspiracy theory stuff comes up. See, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and that's how they try to label true whistleblowers, and they try to label different people, such as talk show hosts and stuff. They classify them as conspiracy. What is a conspiracy according to Black Law's dictionary? It's two or more coming together to conspire to do something illegal. That's a conspiracy, okay? A theorist is one that theorizes. I don't theorize. I deal with evidence. I deal with witnesses. I deal with evidence that people have provided to me. I don't say anything that I can't prove. Why is it that after 29 years, I have never been sued by the Bush Crime Syndicate? Ask the question. Why is it that I get phone calls from cable magnates saying, take that story about my bribes I paid Congressman Jefferson off the deal or I'm going to sue you? Well, go ahead. I'm standing behind it. Go ahead and sue me. I never got sued. Sue me, and I'll put your ass in jail because I can prove it. Okay? So the question is, why hasn't that ever happened? Why is it that I haven't ever been answered? My grand jury has never been answered, and yet I still have an open case number. Instead, they just try to kill me over it, and they do everything they can to obstruct justice. Now, to answer that, I recently released 2 tapes of the FBI, one of FBI that was assigned to investigate, and also the new U.S. attorney they had in 1995, Henry Solano, and his cover-up. And you listen to conversations. They're on the breaking news. They were put up on Sunday. I did a show with Chris. He's on Talk Show. We decided to give an explanation before and the end of the tapes, and I released the tapes. I'm going to start releasing a whole bunch of tapes. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in archives. I recently took my computer, loaded up some stuff and that I've had on disc for years, and I decided it was time that these things come out to prove what I've been saying. And those tapes, they're very interesting. They're self-explanatory. But
well, Stu, just side issue here, but have you seen any good movement from the good guys in the government to think that, things are getting any better, or that more people are waking up in the government? Maybe somebody, is going to take action, or what are you seeing out there from your contacts?
Oh, no, and no. I've talked to so many people, and they're all saying the same thing. It's going to have to be the American people going to have to rise. They're going to have to rise against them. Then there will be a movement to stand behind the American people to ensure that the American people aren't slaughtered in the streets and so forth, and they will stand behind the American people. And there will be a cleansing. There may be at that time, when the people rise, the military would probably step in and take it over temporarily. Yes, and I say that, Washington, and there could be a lot of arrest from it. It isn't going to happen unless the people rise. And we aren't going to have change at the voting booths because you hear the same crap every 4 years. Oh, well, folks, the Republicans got in. Wait until 4 years from now when we get in. Well, we've all heard this for 30 friggin' years, and it's nonsense.
Yeah.
And they controlled the voting booths ever since the early 1990s with the electronic voting booths going in there. People should be at the voting booth saying, get that thing out of my district. I want a paper ballot.
Yeah, exactly.
It solved the problem. But people are going to have to rise. I'm all behind the Occupy movement and the younger generation here saying, we've had enough. I don't know whether you see all of a sudden to quelch that. Oh, a new House resolution bill that they've come up with here in the past couple days. We're going to forgive your student loan debt. Oh, just quit bothering us with your Occupy movement. People, you're going to have to get real. That Bluffsdale, Utah thing, they're listening to everybody right now. But if you go and see what that whistleblower released in Wired magazine, the NSA whistleblower Stone, and you really look and see what was in there, and it's up on my site, look at the entire article, look in the bottom of what I put in there. They got drones. They got the death ray on the drones. They're going to use these drones against the American people. Anybody who speaks out against them, they're going to fly right over your house, zap you, and you're going to turn to friggin' dust. and nobody will even know that you were there. And for them to put the NDAA law into effect, they come get you and hold you without a trial, torture, and you kill you. This is friggin' Nazi Germany all over again.
That's right.
And every one of these bastards up on the hill that signed that NDAA law, and every one of them that signed the Patriot Act, can be recalled immediately because they took an oath of office, uphold and support the Constitution of the United States. Now, folks, listen to me very carefully. I found something very interesting. I've been calling for the to arrest, recall, and impeach. What I mean by impeach, get these damn judges off the bench who are all criminals, and go in and those that aren't doing their job, get them out of there. And you can do it under the Cold War walls. It just takes masses to do it. It's simple to do, okay? And people can join together and do it. But I found something the other night that I didn't even know existed. There's a Facebook site, Recall and Impeach. I said, oh, my God, 13,000 followers right here. Someone's already got it going. This is fantastic. Everybody should be doing this. All across this land, instead of sitting at home drinking your Budweiser, sitting on your potato couch and being a potato every night, you should be out there getting signatures like they did, the teachers did in Wisconsin. What got those federal or those state employees motivated? Because they were going to have to pay $200 a month out of their pocket for the new health care. That's the only thing that got them motivated to recall or do the recall of this governor of Wisconsin, who happens to be a cousin to George W. Bush. Think about his name. Walker? Come on, folks. Let's all wake up to reality here, right?
Hey, Stu, we're going to take a break in just a second, but one quick question before we do. What's your gut feeling? Who do you think is going to be anointed our next puppet president?
Well, I think you're going to see the financial puppet stooge, Mitt Romney, because the American people have been programmed to think that this guy in office is dirt. I mean, he's done nothing for him, which is true. He just played the Bush stooge game.
Right.
But there is a possibility it's going to be one of the other stooges because this is the anointed ones. Your vote doesn't count. We have three good, clean people out here. I've been a Ron Paul supporter for a long time, but then again, Ron Paul's just one guy. You also have Cynthia McKinney, former congressman of Georgia. Hell, I had a 2.5-hour breakfast meeting with her in Kansas City where she came and saw me over 911. She went back and taxed Rumsfeld and General Meyer, Blackjack Meyer. Is it true that there were 4 military exercises on the day of 911, Mr. Rumsfeld? He back crapped his pants and passed the buck to Myers. Myers popped truth. He says there were 4 military exercises and there was 1 FBI military exercise. Well, I didn't know the FBI was part of the military. They were the ones that wired the building on 911 with the Israeli Mossad. And the police chief of New York at the time, Bernard Curry. And by the way, my friends couldn't get him for doing 911. So if you can't get Al Capone for murder, how do you get him? Income tax evasion. So, Bernard, that's who got your ass, punk.
Well, you want to take our last big break?
Let's take this break.
All right, get you.
Yeah, let's take a break here.
Okay.
So hang on there, Glenn, and Stu, hang on with us, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Everybody else, hold on. We're going to take this break. We'll be back with Stu Webb and Glenn Kennedy, 858-683-1309. Last chance to call in this hour, 858-683-1309. Press 1 so we know you want to come on the air. I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and we'll be right back.
Five Star Shine carries the world's best accessories for your vehicle, including their world-famous 5-Star Shine paint protection system. 5-Star Shine protects your vehicle with a super slick coating of PTFE. PTFE is used in the U.S. space program and is the same material used to make non-stick cookware. 5-Star Shine actually keeps your vehicle cleaner with a dazzling shine. To see 5-Star Shine and all their other products, go to 5starshine.com. That's the number 5, starshine.com, or you can go to latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the 5-Star Shine menu option.
This message is for all business owners. I've got Chris Osborne from PromoteYourWebsite.com with me today. I've actually known Chris for over 35 years. We've worked together in many different businesses over the years, and I'm very happy to now have Chris on our team at InSearch. Chris, PromoteYourWebsite.com has been helping business owners now for over 15 years. What is the most important thing business owners need to know about their website?
Well, Glenn, business owners need to really know that they can compete with big business out there, and they can get a lot of traffic and sales to their website if they optimize and promote their site the right way. We all know that a good-looking website is a great resource for existing customers, but it's essentially worthless for attracting new customers. Most web designers are concerned with delivering a nice-looking, functional website, but they're really not hired to bring a company more business. So that's where search engine optimization, or SEO, and search engine marketing, SEM, comes in.
What can a business owner do right now?
Well, they can get their site marketed properly. As you mentioned earlier, we've been working on marketing websites for about 15 years now, and we've learned what works and what doesn't work. We can absolutely help your listeners get substantially more traffic and business to their website if they want to do more business in 2012. But they have to be proactive by calling us, and they really have to want to develop a stronger customer base. To make things easy for them, we've developed a special offer for all of the Radio InSearch listeners. If they'll call us at 817-453-0339 or go out to our website at www.promoteyourwebsite.com and mention that they listen to Radio InSearch, we'll give each listener a 15% discount on all of our services.
Hey, thanks so much for talking to us today, Chris. And if you're a business owner that needs more traffic and sales from your website, make sure you go over to PromoteYourWebsite.com or just call my friend Chris at 817-453-0339.
Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Updates.
We got about 50 more minutes. Are you getting tired?
No more nuclear testing and much more.
Okay.
Research.
All right, yeah, we only got 50 minutes and we're done. We've run for 2 hours and 10 minutes, I guess.
Has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating.
It's going good, buddy.
You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com, or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Get your copy now.
You're listening to Late Night in the Midlands on Radio InSearch. We cover everything.
Yeah, we sure do need to get back where we started from. I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and we're broadcasting live.
On Radio Inserts, I've got Glenn Kennedy with me, and our guest tonight is Stu Webb, and we will take your calls at 858-683-1309. You've got to press 1, so I know you want to get on the air. I know a lot of people get on the line and listen. If you want to get on, you have to press 1, so I know. Otherwise, I'll just think you're listening. The website, www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, and Glenn's website, www.project.nsearch.com. The social network is nsearch.com. And our guest tonight, I've got it linked up over on latenightinthe-midlands.com, so you can get his website there. And I've also been posting it in the chat periodically. With that being said, everybody, just really quick, don't forget, share our content everywhere you can. Tonight's show, all our shows, share them. And by all means, donate if you can. That's what keeps us going here on Late Night in the Midlands. So we appreciate any help that you might give. All right, so let's get back to it with Glenn Kennedy and Stu Webb. All right, gentlemen, we are back.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, Stu, I want to open it up for you to cover probably whatever you think the most important issue is right now. Is just whatever direction you want to go for it.
Well, first of all, I'll apologize to everybody who's listening. Okay, I get angry. I use a little vulgarity on occasion. You know, I'm coming back to say I apologize for doing that on the air. I don't hate these people. God tells us not to hate them. I don't hate people. But God hates evil. So that says to me, well, if God hates evil, can't we hate evil? Can't we despise evil as well? And that's what this is all about. We got evil trying to overthrow the good on this planet. And that's what it amounts to. And we have such a generation in the past 30, 40 years, a split in a generation. And it's because of the breakdown of the families, in my opinion, and so forth, that have occurred. Okay, women going into the workplace, and I understand that, because, you know, a lot of married couples have to support the children and all that. Okay, we can go back to all the godly things, but we're in a society, we're in a different society, we're in a different generation, you know. But the people out there that really have a firm belief in God, listen up. Forget the pulpagoon. Forget the Sunday church. On your hands and knees daily and start praying against the enemy. The enemy. We're revealing part of the enemy to you right now. You got 100 Templar bankers that control the planet's wealth. Ask God to deal with them. You'd be surprised. Ask God to deal with these alien bases, these fallen angels, and to start removing and getting rid of this problem that we've got. And to start changing the ways that this whole planet thinks. You'd be surprised what will work. I mean, who was the prophet that prayed and the whole world stopped and turned backwards? I forgot. Where is that? Hosea, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'm not
so
an
the power
expert.
of one belief is very strong. I know. I've seen things that I could never believe would even occur. So that's one thing that needs to be said, okay? Because there's a lot of good people out here listening. A lot of people have small faith. A lot of people have strong faith, okay? Get on your hands and knees and see how it works. Ask God, say, Stu Webb, ask me to ask you. Test me. That's what God says, to test me. Check me out. Just ask me for one thing and see if I'll give to you if you want to serve me. What we have now is we have a battle. And all the stuff we hear about people being channeled through and all that, that's all evil entity coming through people for various reasons. I mean, you can't believe how rampant this is, even through what they call the churches. And these evangelicals, oh my God, in my opinion, they need a house cleansing really bad. Because there's so much of this garbage that's going on in all the churches. The churches are so bent out of shape, they aren't part of God's church. Now, I'm going to have, you know, maybe I'll be attacked for this. I really don't care. I only try to speak the truth. I don't have long to live. Whatever God wants to keep me around. He's kept me around through battles for 28 years, 29 years now. And he's promised me things, and I won't reveal them on this air, but he's promised me things. One I will reveal. He said, I'll have a happy relationship with my daughter. I haven't seen her since she was an infant, okay? She's 29 years of age, almost, and I have a permanent lifetime restraining order where the FBI would immediately come out and arrest me if I violated that order. And that's under a sealed case that I can't even open. I can't open it up, okay? Because of what they did in Denver, Colorado. Corruption, frauds upon the court. But I know that day will come before my end. And I'll tell you right now, we're all going to have to pull together, and we're going to have to get against the enemy. And the enemy is the leaders of this country. They're very evil. For people to do what they're doing against the American people and against their sworn oath of office, okay, they're answering to evil entities. And they're answering to Daddy Bush. And I guarantee you, that's one of the most evil walking pieces of garbage on the planet. And we all need to be praying against them, okay? I just want to make that clear. Start praying against them. Ask God to destroy them, bottom line. Ask God to reveal them, to destroy them, to bind them up, and to cut their power base that they have, and to cut their wealth that they have, and give it back to the righteous where they stole it from, and to the people where they stole it from. We're going to see a lot of very unusual things unless we get enough people out here start to really get serious about their prayer and about their beliefs, because we're going to see tremendous things. We got wormwood coming at us, folks. We have a lot of things coming in this end-time prophecy if you're true believers, and you can see it. And don't sit back and think, oh, well, I'm going to get raptured off of here. There isn't a rapture that occurs. It don't happen. There's 144,000 Jews in Israel from all the tribes, and now they're going to get raptured because they're going to become believers in Christ, which their generation passed on because they crucified Christ. And so there's going to be a lot of believers out of that 144,000. I don't want to get into biblical stuff. I'm not a preacher, but I'm going to tell you, look off at the west every night. What is that big bright star out there that someone say, oh, no, that's Mercury, Stu. That's not wormwood. Go hunt out wormwood dark star on the internet and see what it is. It's to the west. It's very bright. It's at a 45-degree angle. It moves around different parts of the sky every night. It's out there right after dark, and it's there until my time, Central Time. It's there about 8 o'clock, and it disappears by 9:30 some nights. Other nights, 10:30 and 11 o'clock. It disappears. It gets brighter every week. If someone were to just sit there and photograph every week a picture of it and put it up on the internet, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What's the book of Revelation say? We get hit with 2 stars, okay? We have big problems all over the planet. We got radiation in the Pacific Ocean. We got the contamination of all the stuff that's killing people and causing birth defects. Deborah Dupree is reported on the Examiner Human Rights. She's done tremendous work on this, about that Gulf. If you look at everything, I won't even eat fish now. Won't even touch it. And I love fish.
Yeah. Me too. I won't eat it either. It's one of the most healthy,
but we don't know where it comes from. Okay, that's the problem. You go someplace, you don't know where it comes from. It either comes from the Gulf, comes from the West or East Coast. And a lot of that crap's come up out of the Gulf, up along the East Coast. It just hadn't been reported on yet. We've got a lot of problems on this planet. They're controlling with the control that they have of this manipulation of the weather. We're going in times. We got droughts in Texas, which a lot of people don't realize. We get 10 to 20% of our food out of Texas, out of the southern part of Texas. It's dead. Has been $2 billion worth of crops gone for over a year and a half. Okay? 2 growing seasons down there. You know, you plant in February and you plant in August, or late July, first part of August. You got 2 growing seasons. There's nothing coming out of Texas anymore. Now we've got Florida. We've got some kind of new virus in the citrus fruit, the oranges and the lemons and limes and so forth, that's now attacking in Florida. It's going to take out half the crop there this year. We've also got the same thing going on out in California. They've identified this new virus in the crops in California. Plus, they're saying there's going to be drought out in California this year. Well, that's a tremendous amount of our food supply, okay? And with what came out, I mean, we had a lot of crop in the Midwest because of combination between drought and overflooding from this past year. So we got a lot of problems going on. And it's because they are in control of a little toy and that they can move the jet stream around at random and all this. It all comes back to the evil ones that are in control of our government, the U.S. government, that we can take that control box away from. And it isn't only through the power of prayer. God will answer, and he'll move in and do things. But we physically have to do something. We physically have to take the control box back from these people. And we can do it in the masses. We can do it through the recall. We can do it through the impeachment. We can push for the impeachment of this President of the United States and start a campaign to remove him, as well as remove these electronic voting booths to ensure that we have future elections and so forth. God can stop all what's considered to be end-time prophecies if there's enough people really talking. I've said my preaching in this part of the show. Let's go to your questions or go to what you want to talk about.
Sure.
Okay?
All right, Stu. I definitely want to go back to the whole wormwood thing in just a moment. I've had people coming to me telling me that this weather phenomena, these earthquakes, and all this strange stuff that's happening, the animal deaths, telling me that is a result of this Planet X. And so I have always thought maybe it could be a mix of both. I don't know. I think the Earth goes through changes, but could this be part of what you just described, this wormwood?
Yeah, wormwood's out there. If you look at it, it's on the internet, wormwood. I don't know whether it's really the Planet X. It could be the same one. Okay, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I know that I've read the book of Revelations, and wormwood's in there, and now they're describing what they call dark star wormwood, and that's the one over here to the west that's moving in on top of us. And yes, there's probably a lot to do with that, but it comes down to plagues. We've got to look at what the Bible says, really, to understand the possibility. But see, I'm a firm believer in this. If good men do nothing and sit on their rear ends and do nothing, this is what's going to happen. Now, if we change things and everybody got up off their duffs and said, okay, we've had enough. We're just going to go all take our duct tape, go up and put them in handcuffs with duct tape, and start taking them all to trial and clean this problem up and take the joystick away from them where they're manipulating the jet stream worldwide, doing all this stuff, and all this other crazy stuff that they're doing. And people were to start really praying and ask God, hey, maybe you can save all these people that are non-believers and the ones that think, channeling's okay and all this, and maybe get them all saved. Well, we'd probably have a turnaround, and maybe we'd have 20 years, and God would test us and see whether we could handle it or not, and whether it would turn around. Okay?
Good point.
That's my point.
Good point.
Well, if you're ready, let's take a call. We've got Tim in Alaska. Welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. Thanks for holding on, Tim.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Nice to hear from you again, Mr. Mr. Webb. I was going to be just a little quick off topic. If you would remember about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, Senator from Alaska, Mr. Ted Stevens, died in a plane crash. And I was wondering if you had heard anything in the grapevine about that crash.
Well, not really. When I've seen different ones die, Paul, the one from Minnesota, good guy. We worked with him a little here and there, myself and Al Martin and others, and we knew what went on there. But when these New World Order pigs die, it's just like your guy you're talking about, Stevens. And when the stooge Mike Wallace died the other day, Israeli stooge for years, been feeding American people a big carrot on behalf of the New World Order. I say, I wish them well. I hope they're burning well in hell. I hope they're really cooking, like a big piece of meat put on the grill and it's left there a long time. So, as far as I'm concerned, Stevens was dirty. All indications for things he was involved with and everything else. So, I don't pay any, tribute to any of the dead ones. They can just cook all they want. God had a place for them. So.
I hear you.
Anything else, Tim?
No, but there was someone on the chat room that was asking about if the fish was still viable in Alaska. I mean, as of last summer, they were. I got fish in my freezer from last summer, and I doubt it was affected by Fukushima. But as far as this spring and summer, I'll be, definitely checking my fish.
You better get a Geiger counter.
Primarily, they are a feeder fish. They'll go out and feed on whatever out in the ocean, and whatever they eat, if it's radioactive, they're going to be radioactive, and it sits primarily in their reproductive systems.
Yeah, did they ever?
So you can kiss any salmon next year, or 4 or 5 years from now when they go out, and they won't be coming back. I predict 3 to 4 years there will be no more salmon in Alaska.
Well, you're from.
If the radiation levels are high enough, absolutely.
Where do you live in Alaska?
I live in Anchorage throughout the winter, but in the summer I go out to fly fishing lodges out in the bush.
Yeah, I grew up in
primarily Lake Iliamna drainage.
I went to high school in Diamond High, and I lived up on Upper Hillside near Service High School up there, and it's a beautiful state. And I never heard the results, but of course, if the government did it, you'll never hear. But remember when all those seals came up with all kinds of sores all over their body? That looked to me like it was radiation. I mean, did they ever?
Absolutely.
Did they ever?
Absolutely, and there was natives that had took some in and they took them back from them. They wouldn't let them keep them.
Yeah.
And they said it was for their protection, obviously. But there was a whale that beached itself not even 5 years ago, and it died in turning an arm, and it was totally polluted. I mean, the natives went down there and butchered it, but they had it tested by, half a dozen different places, and it was full of pollution, basically, PCBs is what it killed it. But that's another thing that should probably be beaching itself pretty quick, or whales, because they live on the creel, and they're all going to be polluted. So once you start seeing them wash up.
Yeah.
But those definitely look to be like radiation burns, something the natives of my wife's Eskimo, she's Yupik from Nome, Alaska, and they've never seen it in their entire history.
Yeah.
They would be familiar with, regular sores that were on sea life like that, that might get a disease, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they've never known of it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. It saddens me so much because Fukushima, we don't need any of these nuclear power plants, and now they're talking about they're not even going to have that thing under control for decades, like 30 or 40 years. It's like we can't even wait that long. I mean, and of course the U.S. is not even helping, not even telling us that it's a big deal and take iodine or anything like that. They're just throwing up their hands and just ignoring it. And then, of course, Fox News is telling you that the Japanese should be happy because, radiation is good for you. So, I mean, that's Fox News for you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for your call, Tim. And if you get a chance, print out some of them cards or get some of them cards and pass them around in Alaska. Let's get the word out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's,
go ahead, Glenn.
And that just, and we're not asking anybody to, you got to understand the government knows if you're awake. They know every website you've ever been to. So don't fool yourself that you're going to keep your head down if things go sideways here. Go hand out these cards. They can't be tracked to you. They got my name on them. They got Mike's name on them. And it's the only way. And I challenge everybody listening too. I don't care what website you belong to. If they're not telling you to hand out cards and brochures or whatever, if they're not actively telling you to do that, then they're just one of these people that are just, spreading fear without any solutions. And we're not a big show, but we got the biggest heart out there, and we've been out there pushing these cards for a while now, and we're finally seeing some other shows start to do it. But if the show or website that you belong to isn't doing that, you tell them that they need to get in the game here, because if you don't start handing out cards like they did in the American Revolution, we have no chance. And God is your only Savior. Everybody needs to pray. And I just want to say this right now. If you're listening to this on the video later, you should shut it off for just a moment and pray to God, just like Stu told you, that Obama's crimes get uncovered, that all these people, they all their plans don't work, and that you and everybody's sins. So just, you have to ask forgiveness for all your sins. But just please pray to God every day, because that's the only thing that can really ultimately save us.
And Glenn, if I could cut in real quick, I just want to say, we're not a big show compared to Coast to Coast,
right,
or Alex Jones.
Right.
But on that note, if you go to LateNightInTheMidlands.com and head to the bottom and take a look at the globe, you'll see that we are a big show on the internet, anyways.
Well, we definitely throw.
I just thought I'd throw that in there.
We throw some big punches. When we throw them, boy, they go viral, mega viral. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, have you seen any other of the shows that claim that they're big? Very few of them are telling their people to go take action. And, if Raylan, if you hear this,
they're saying buy our caps and buy our T-shirts, and all they do is have the name of the show on them. That's about the most they're doing.
Everybody, get the cancer cures out there. Tell them to come and get the information like Stu Webb's talking about, because that is the only thing that's going to work, people. It's the only thing that they don't fully control. Is they can't stop you from talking one-on-one, and they can't stop you from leaving 500 cards around in a week like I've done and what Michael's done. I mean,
not yet anyway.
Yeah. We've done it before. We've woken up 500,000 people just ourselves. I mean, there's millions of people awake, and if a million people handed out just 300 cards, that's potentially 300 million people that we wake up. And God will get those seeds of truth to the people that need them. You don't worry about that. You spread them everywhere you go. You don't leave the house without those cards in your car and in your pocket. And every person you meet, you tell them, hey, turn off your TV. It's all fake. Go listen to the truth and open their eyes up.
There's another way of doing it, too, if I may, for a minute.
Yes.
Is that
please do.
Out emails to everybody that's on your email list and everybody you know.
That's right.
And hook up a link, to the various websites that you know where the truth's going out. Another way is an effective, I call it, a covert operation of the American people. Get covert. Start taking these Sean Hannity Lugerheads. Start taking these Bill O'Reilly Lugerheads.
That's right.
Start calling into all these Randy Road Lugerheads. All these main New World Order mainstream talk shows that you hear, and say, oh, yeah, I want to ask a question, or I want to make a statement about what you just said. Mm-hmm. And then bombard them with some truth before you get caught off. I did it one night down in Holmes, because I was so ticked off about a subject he was trying to cover up several years back. And I was accidentally punched the button on the radio on the way home, changing FM music station, of which I enjoy. And so here I am, accidentally punched the wrong button and hit the AM station, and I hear this Alan Combs, he's talking about something and spreading a lie, right? Fox News lies, right? The Israeli Mossad. I said, you dirty sucker, I'm going to get you. I got home, I couldn't wait. I don't do this because I've done 2,500 shows and I don't do it. But I tagged him right on the air. I was able to get in there and make a statement. And he sat there and tried to cover it up. I said, I'm a nationally known federal whistleblower. My website such and such. I said, you're telling the people a big lie. And I sat there and bombarded him for about 2.5 minutes. And honest to God, I went in the next day and looked at my website. He shot 300,000 that night. His listeners came in and looked on my website. So I woke up a few of them. Whether they took it, whether they're still coming back or not, I don't know. But I sure in the hell...
Too, I've done that here, too. I've done that here. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that. I'm just saying, yeah, I've done the same thing. I've called radio stations here locally and nationally, and they will cut you off real quick.
Real quick. And another thing I don't understand about, the Occupy movement. Why aren't they out there at the media stations? Every TV station across this land, they should be parked at their fucking front door saying, we're going to tell you the truth and you're going to listen.
Yeah.
They'll bring the TV cameras. You go scare somebody to death, and that's what you're doing. You're parking on the doorstep. They're going to open the door and listen to what you have to say. Now, over in Greece, I kind of find it funny, but Mediate.org, I think it is, one of the sites, one of the professors out of California have, kind of an alternative media. They put out a story here about 2 weeks ago about over in Greece, how the people, the Greece government is covering up, and the Bank of Greece and so forth. And first of all, they were going to eliminate the Goldman Sachs debt, which is these artificial mortgages they're holding, right? And just bankrupt on them. Instead, they've decided to absorb them, the government. So how are they going to absorb them? They're going to take the pension funds, or they're going to take the money from the people, right, of Greece. So what did they do? They got all ticked off. They had protesters, went in, broke into the studio at the local TV station, and egged and threw yogurt on the nightly news, New World Order broadcaster. I thought that was great. Now, I'm not suggesting that. I'm not advocating violence. But what would happen if Bill O'Reilly were walking down the street, Mr. Lugarhead, Mr. CIA Lugarhead, or some of these other stooges like Townsend that runs assassination teams, that appears on CNN every time there's a problem? What happens if those stooges got hit with eggs and yogurt and some other stuff and were confronted by the masses on the streets? Right. You wouldn't see them in the studio much longer. They'd be in fear of their lives. They'd be in fear of coming on and feeding the American people the crap. And there aren't that many people that believe these people. There's only a certain percentage of them. Most people awake out here, can't stand what they call the news, are looking for alternative, and a lot of people in America are getting the truth off of the internet. But
that's why they
remember
want to control it.
Yeah.
We have to understand two things to understand the American people. We have 60% of the workforce in America works for the government. They work for the U.S. government, they work for the state government, the county government, or the municipalities. Or they have contracts with the government, working for the government. And they're being told not to be looking at these websites, not to be listening to this garbage. They don't know the truth. That's 60% of the American people.
Oh. Oh, I lost. Looks like I've lost my video feed, guys, so I'm going to try to reconnect it.
To keep from being a political prisoner. Well, she came back in June of that year, and she says she asked for, an interview with George Herbert Walker Bush when he was president of the United States in June of 1992. And she says, what would the American people ever do if they find out the truth about Iraq-Gate, which is what is in that tape, and Iran-Contra, which is the theft of the Treasury, the establishment of guns for drug network, and the overthrow of the Constitution, basically. And his answer was, Sarah, if the American people, he's so bold he said this, he says, quote unquote, Sarah, if the American people find out the truth of what we have done, they will chase us down the streets and lynch us.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, we're at a critical point here. Now, if Glenn or any of us, if we were to lose our connection now, we would not be able to get back in on the switchboard. So let's, Stu, if people want to get a hold of you, like our last caller, maybe has suggestions or ways of helping, how would they do that?
Webb at StuWebb.com. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. If they want to contribute, it's on there. I have several ways of doing it. I'm just open. I like an open book. I don't have anything to hide. And I'm not going in hiding. I've played that game. I've moved around too many times. It's not going to work anymore. I'm right here and right now.
I appreciate all that you do and for coming on this program. I really do. And we're going to put your links up permanently over on LateNightInTheMidlands.com.
as well. And Glenn, if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, I just wanted. We had a little video difficulties throughout the show, and that's to be expected when you're dealing with information like this. But yeah, if anybody is a webmaster or a programmer that can help Stu, mirror these sites or whatever, get a hold of him and help Stu as much as you can financially as well. And just once again, just get active. Nobody's gonna, like Stu said, the channelers are garbage. That's demons. That's nuts. Don't even listen to it. It's all lies to make you sit there and say, oh, aliens are going to save me. The only one's going to save this planet is who stares back at you when you look in the mirror, and that's you. So if you haven't donated to anybody yet and you haven't given out any cards yet, what are you waiting on? Once again, those cards are at nsearch.com. And click the help button. You can get the electronic versions and go to Vistaprint and print out thousands of them. Please, God, go out and do as much as you can. And that's all we've got, Mike. We're going to have Stu back on as soon as we can. But he was gracious enough to come on in short notice, and we just thank you so much, Stu.
Hey, I thank you both for having me. I'm honored to be on your show, and I hope the word gets out. I hope you continue. And, folks, give to them. They want to do this TV program. This is the first time that, and it's like Glenn and I talked tonight. What do they want, Glenn? So much a month to be able to do it, you got to pay the fees. And this is what people don't understand. In order to be out there, I mean, there's ways of reaching people, and there's ways of getting these videos made, and there's ways of reaching the people, which they want to see. I mean, you can look at somebody's face, and you can tell whether they're telling the truth or not. Looking them in the eyes. You can't tell over those radio shows all the time, and this needs to be done. But it's a fee out there. So, I'm pushing back to say give to them to help them get their TV part of the internet program all hooked up, because it is very vital. We're at a very vital point and a turning point. And just remember this: your vote when you go into November, it's not going to count. And they're going to tell you, oh, wait until next election. So just keep that in mind. Think about it now. We have to have the information revolution now in the physical, should we say, not confrontation. And I'm not advocating revolution, but we need to have enough people stand up to the plate to say we've had enough. And it needs to be done now. Not next week, but now. Remember May the 1st. I'm just hoping it might turn into something. I got my duct tape. That's my handcuffs.
Well, thank you so much, Stu. I appreciate having you on. You just don't know.
I appreciate it. You have a good evening and good night to the listeners.
Right. Get some rest, Stu.
All right, thank you.
Stay safe.
You too.
Absolutely. Good night, and God bless, my friend. And Glenn, go ahead and finish up, and we'll get out of here tonight.
Well, like I said, just when you get to meet your maker someday, he's not gonna ask you how many times you watch Survivor or Dancing with the Stars. He just wants to know how many people you've helped in your life. So just go out there and do the best you can. And God bless everybody, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Glenn. Thank you so much, and thank you, Aaron and Glenn, for getting Stu Webb on the program. We put this together at the last minute. Glenn contacted me. I was actually going to go with the recorded show tonight because, Peter stepped down and all, and and I didn't have a guest plan for tonight. And Glenn says, well, Stu Webb's willing to come on. And I said, all right, well, let's do it. So they saved the day. So thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Glenn, and thank you so much, Stu Webb, for sharing all that information with us tonight. Just unbelievable. And everybody else, thank you so much for listening tonight. I appreciate it, no matter where you're listening, wherever you may be, around the globe, in the chat room, on the phone lines, your Mars bases, your moon bases, or even if the feds got us tapped. Thank you for listening, and have a good night. For Autumn, Anthony, Joey, Glenn Kennedy, Dr. John DeSalvo, Kerry Korn, Stu Webb, and myself, I am Michael Vera, and this has been a broadcast of Late Night in the Midlands. Everyone, keep those eyes posted to the sky. You never know what you might see. Keep your ears posted to this broadcast because you never know what you might learn. Good night, everybody.